Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. It's probably going to be a quick one, but we had another volatile day in the market. When you're selling options, volatility is not always a bad thing because you can usually make more premium because there's more uncertainty and maybe some more fear. And before we get started talking about a food stock or a restaurant stock that I started selling puts on again, if you like this kind of content, I've been documenting almost daily now me trying to sell options for some extra income. If that sounds like something you'd like to follow along and see how I do through the ups and downs, consider subscribing. That way you don't miss any videos in the future. And we're revisiting a restaurant stock, and it's probably the only restaurant stock I've ever sold options on in the past. And it's my favorite fast food franchise. And if you don't consider it fast food, well, I do. So that's too bad. Just get over it. And that is Chipotle Mexican Grill. It was always a dream of mine, by the way, when I started selling options, that I wanted to make enough selling options to be able to afford free Chipotle. If I could meet that requirement, that was good enough for me. A lot of these YouTubers, they have these lofty goals like, oh, I'm going to make 20K a month and I'm going to buy a Lamborghini. And that's really cool. I hope they do. That's awesome. But that's where I came from. I just want to make enough to buy Chipotle. And maybe I'll get to the point where I can buy a Lamborghini. But anyway, Chipotle hasn't been doing too much lately. In the last couple months, I've been keeping an eye on it, and it hasn't really dipped much, except it did recently. It got close to $58. In the last week, it's been down 3%. And the last month, it's been down 9%, almost 10% total. So I figured I'd get back into it, start selling puts on it again, and see how I do. If we go over to my spreadsheet, which I use to track all of the different options I sell and get all the premiums in here to add up how much I've made during a particular time period, which, by the way, if you're interested in purchasing this for yourself and helping out the channel, I'll have a link in the description. It's 50% off for the time being, and you can go grab this and hopefully track your own options that you sell and see how much you profit throughout the months. Well, we can see this last line here, Chipotle Mexican Grill, I made $37 in premium. It expires this Friday and a strike price of $58. And that was actually the only put I sold today. In terms of total monthly return just from premium alone, $637. And about $10 a bowl at Chipotle, this will earn me 63 bowls, almost 64 bowls over at Chipotle, which is awesome. So if I wanted to eat it twice a day, every day, I already could with the amount of money I made in premium. And I wasn't too sure why Chipotle has dipped, so I went ahead and I asked my friend, Copilot, if they could tell me the latest Chipotle news. So hopefully we can get some more insight on why the stock's been down a bit. And I did notice this news earlier. There's a price increase on menu items. This was a big deal by 2%. And they blamed inflation and rising ingredient costs, which I can believe. And people were freaking out about this 2% menu price raise when I'm sure they've done a lot more in the last 2 years than 2%. So that didn't really surprise me. But here's the kicker, and here's what I'm excited for. I don't know about you. You've probably heard about it too. They're opening a new restaurant in Rib Mountain, Wisconsin. And if that isn't the most badass name of a city I've ever heard, I don't know what is. And they have a grand opening planned for early fall of 2025. I don't know if the AI is just trolling me or if this is actually big news, but I've never heard of Rib Mountain, Wisconsin in my life, nor do I know why this would come up with all of the different other things like the class action lawsuit and the inflation menu price increase. But I just thought it was hilarious. This was the number 3 point that Copilot gave me. But something to look out for is earnings is coming up February 4th for Chipotle. And I'm sure if we were to look at the options for Chipotle and sell puts past February 4th, we would see a drastic price difference in puts. So on January 31st, which is before the earnings, we can see this 55 strike is going for $48 in premium. If we go out just one more week, which will be after earnings, that $55 strike, $116. So this is the power of earnings. What is that? Over double? Yeah, well over double the amount of premium you'll get because people are just uncertain about how earnings are going to go. Maybe they're bearish on earnings and that's why there's such a drastic difference in premium. But if you really wanted to, you could go a month out and make $116 on a $5,500 investment in Chipotle. So earnings season is always great in terms of premium, but there's always some more risk because you never know what they're going to say in their earnings that are going to make investors worrisome. So I always like to keep that in the back of my mind and try to remember that as much as I can. So yeah, This is the start of maybe me continuing to sell puts on, so I almost said SoFi, Chipotle. And honestly, this number 3 point, the Rib Mountain, Wisconsin, I think that's going to be huge. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you know what Rib Mountain is or if I'm being trolled. I think this is hilarious. And anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video.